There are many things that shock you when you move out from the Northeast to a big city like Delhi. The noise shocks you, the speed, the way people interact, the chaotic traffic, the constant urgency, the fact that everyone seems to be in a race, people talking loudly on speakerphone in the metro coaches, bikes cutting off dangerously in traffic, people casually throwing off trash on the street, auto walas overcharging you because you don't, sound or seem local. So all that is frustrating, and I get that. It's part of the whole experience moving to a new city. I understand that. That's completely fine. I'm okay with all that, but surprisingly, none of those things irritate me, or if I must say, irritate Northeast people as much as one small behavior: cutting someone off in line and not even realizing or acknowledging that they did it. Like, absolutely not feeling guilty about it. No remorse, no regret, nothing. In most Northeast places, queues are just obvious. You didn't need like barricades or, someone shouting like, okay, line se ao. You didn't need to protect your space with your shoulder when you stand. Um, it was just understandable. You stand, you wait. Even on narrow roads, lately you must have, come across those videos and reels from like parts of like Sikkim or Mizoram or, some Northeast where, even though the traffic is blocked on one side, nobody is cutting off and everybody's staying in their lanes because they know that breaking the line will make everything worse for everyone. So when I come across those reels, when people are so shocked, seeing each other not cutting each other off in traffic and staying in their lanes, and like it's like they're witnessing some sort of miracle or like rare phenomenon. So I feel shocked seeing their reaction, because it's not really something to be proud of. There's nothing to show off there. We never grew up talking about it. It wasn't a topic of discussion. It wasn't achievement. It was just the most basic understanding of how people should behave while sharing spaces in public with each other. Back in Northeast, it's just another day, a very normal day. And that kind of like unsaid rule has been maintained there for ages, quietly without the hype. See, my point is not to undermine that or dismiss people who are impressed by it. I understand why they react that way. But now that civic sense and all those things have become such hot topics, it feels strange that something so normal back there is abnormal elsewhere. Even in those videos where you see like people stuck in long line of traffic, you won't see anyone taking out their cameras and phones and like taking a video like it's some sort of miracle. It's because it's not. It's just how things are and are supposed to be. It's just very normal back there. And the same applies to queues in public as well. So when someone, casually walks ahead of you, cutting you off, filling that space in front of you like it's a business opportunity, it really hits you to the core. It hits you differently. And like you genuinely cannot believe that someone just did that. It's unbelievable, not in a good way. Not really because it delays you or, you lost something, but just the fact that, that person didn't even hesitate to do it. Like there wasn't even a tiny pause of like, oh, wait, am I intruding someone? Am I taking up their space? Will that make someone uncomfortable? Or, what will they think of me if I do this? Like that small internal voice, that basic awareness that your action might affect someone standing next to you, that is completely absent. And when that happens, because most Northeast folks, they don't want public confrontation, they just suffer in silence. Recently I was at the metro station and my metro card recharge had run out. So instead of, recharging it through the app, waiting for the code and verification and all that, I thought I'll just go to the customer counter and, pay cash and get done with it. There were already few people ahead of me, sorting out their issues. So, I went there, I stood behind them, not too close, not awkwardly far, just, enough space, maybe like a foot or something, enough to make it very clear that I was next in line. So while I was standing there, a guy walks in, looks at the booth, and without hesitation, he just goes ahead of me and occupies that space like I didn't even exist there. Like he just occupied that space like it was just empty, which it was, but you know what I mean, right? And at that moment, I didn't feel like, fighting or like confronting him, or it wasn't about losing a spot. Eventually we, both of us boarded the same train. So anyway, what's the point? So, but it was about how easily, how comfortably, without even thinking twice, he just went ahead and occupied that space. Because in my head, that space is not empty. it, that space meant something. It meant that someone is waiting. It meant that there's an order, even though no one really announced it. It was unsaid agreement between like strangers. There are many city habits that irritate you, but out of all that, I think this cutting someone off in line, this feels the worst by far. Why? Is because it's so small, it's so basic that you shouldn't even be told about it. It's such a simple moment where you could just pause for like 2 seconds and think that, oh, is someone already here? Am I occupying someone else's space? From a Northeast perspective, that pause, right? That 2 second pause is automatic. We are raised with that quite awareness of others around us. You don't take someone else's turn. You don't assume that every space, every gap belongs to you. You don't treat public space as your private opportunity. So when the opposite happens, it doesn't make you hate anyone in particular. It just confuses you. You're in disbelief. Did he really do that? Because then you start wondering, is this how people behave here normally? Is this how people are wired here, or have we been wired differently? And I'm not saying that one place is better than the other. Every place has its strengths and weaknesses. Cities, they have the energy, they have the ambition, exposure, opportunities that small towns don't. But maybe development shouldn't remove that small internal voice inside us asking, am I inconveniencing someone else? That's all there is. It's not about superiority. It's not about comparing cultures. It's that tiny, that almost invisible moment of awareness. If that awareness exists, queues work without supervision, roads work without constant honking, public spaces feel shared, not fought over. And maybe that's why for a lot of Northeast people, cutting someone off in line isn't just rude. It feels personal. Not because we are sensitive, but because we were taught that even when you're in a crowd, you don't forget the person standing next to you. And maybe that's a habit worth keeping, no matter where we live, where we go. It's been a while that I wanted to let this out, and now that I've done it, I think I feel better. That's all the thought that I have for today. Until next time, take care. Catch you in the next one.